Hello and welcome. My name is Taylor. I'm with the Hacking Company at Remax River City. We are a real estate team, and we are going to be talking a little bit about what a November we saw. November is all wrapped up right now, and why we're talking about it at this point is because the REALTORS Association of Edmonton just released their statistics package, and I got to tell you, it's horrible reading. It's awful. It is a book of numbers that probably don't mean a lot to the majority of people out there, but what this information means to us is actually very important. It's how we can help clients make decisions, see where the market is trending. I don't know if you're like I am, but I think that most people that say they have a crystal ball have some serious explaining to do after 2020. So instead, we can talk about things like, where is this market trending? What could that tell us about what's going to happen? Because there's a bunch of people that are speculating right now by taking no action. They're hanging out. They're just stopped. They're like, I'm not sure where the market's going to go, so I'm not going to do anything. And meanwhile, there's another group that we're talking to that is actually taking action in the marketplace. And I got to tell you that the results that they're having, you probably wouldn't be afraid of those results. But let's decode this. Let's bring in our great real estate team. Let's start off let's go alphabetical order today, starting with Amy Brown. Good to see you, Amy. How you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Do you think we should let Anthony in here?
I think so.
Okay. Anthony D'Souza, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Now, the two of you have been signing a lot of clients this week. What do you mean? It's December. Shouldn't be people going to the mall? Are they buying houses for Christmas? What's going on here?
There's a couple things. One of the things is that we're signing people for what's going to come up so that we can help them from now all the way until they're ready to list, to get everything in order, everything perfectly how they want it. And then the other thing is that some people need to move right now. And so we're working with those people too.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, Craig, you were just helping somebody, a buyer in the market. Here we have Craig Bentley, and you're fresh from a win. What were you talking about related to your last buyer?
Yeah, I was helping a family purchase a home here. They were looking for a good deal. And of course, the winter months, we can definitely find some inventory that's been kicking around a little bit longer and negotiate a little bit stronger. And that's exactly what we did. We were able to get the closing that they wanted, the price that they wanted, and all the terms that they wanted.
Wow. Buyers didn't feel like that last year, hey?
No, things were starting to pick up at that point. It was much more competitive.
And Cordell, similar experience with your last buyer?
Yeah, absolutely. I helped a family relocate here to the city, and same as Craig, the property was on the market for quite some time, and they were priced a little over the market. So with negotiations, I was able to get them a good deal at fair market value.
That's great, because really a lot of people don't know that there's three prices to real estate. There's a list price, which is what the seller wants. There is what every buyer wants. What does every buyer want to pay?
$1.
Just that price, right? Yeah. My daughter's sick this morning, and if it was me in the 1980s, I'd be laid out on the couch watching Prices right now. And somebody would be like, "I'd like to bid $1." And I'd be like, "What the hell's going on there?" But now I get it. Everybody wants to pay the least money. And in between there's market value, but I'm afraid that there's not as many people that know market value at the time that they make an offer. And that's one of the things that we do that saves people from a 3-star experience in real estate is those people that you just got deals on. If they were really excited about those properties, they might have just bought them not knowing and just making an offer out of that fear that would probably have been way closer to list price than where you suggested. This team also, last year, we were calculating some stats, and you guys took twice as much off the listings that you purchased than you gave up on the properties you sold when we talk about list to sale percentage. In fact, I know that it's not quite the end of the year yet, so like making announcements might be a little early, but this real estate team also helped buyers and sellers in this marketplace do over $50 million in transactions last year. There's a lot of realtors out there. There's more realtors out there right now than there has been over the last few years. 4,400 or so out there. And I have to say that like it's very rare that you get this much actual experience as a cadence, where you guys are talking in our office, just like we're talking right now. And we talk about these stories that are happening in real estate so that everybody's so in tune. So really well done. That's fantastic, and I want your reaction to this. So the Angus Watt Advisory Group, they just released out there that released their weekly, which I love. They have these like almost like a bullet point, a 10-second weekly update, and they did this feature where they were talking about home affordability. They were saying things about how household spending has the first decline since 2021, but in there, they said Canadian home affordability is in the longest sequence of decline since 1986 to 1989. So this is back to the days of hyperinflation, right? And the mortgage on a representative Canadian home now takes 67% of that household income to service. That's the most since 1981. So the majority of people are spending so much, almost 70% of their money, almost 7 out of every $10 coming into their home, they're spending on servicing this. And this is different depending on where you live. In fact, it's 100.5% of your income if you live in Victoria. The average income, it would take all of your average income. I think that the majority of people in Victoria are retired. So this is probably skewing the numbers a little bit. But that's still pretty wild, right? Just to live, like, shelter is all your money.
That's crazy.
Now in in Vancouver, it was 102% of the average household income in order to afford shelter there. Now get this, Toronto is 93%. What do you think it is in Edmonton?
65%.
Oh, I was going to say that. 64.
64. Okay.
I'll go
Tony?
with 60%.
I was going to
What
say
else is
50.
60? You guys, it's 31.7.
Oh, wow.
You could
No wonder people
reverse
are moving here.
Yeah, you could reverse it. You could literally keep the majority of your money and spending 30% on shelter. For those people that are living in other places, is living there every day, like the vacations you could take from Edmonton right now if you had way more of your own money?
There's no way.
No way. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So a lot of people have buying power here that they're probably not really aware of. Pretty crazy information. Well, let's decode these statistics. I know that the majority of agents, when they run into people in the public, they talk about like, hey, is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Cordell, what can you tell us? Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market?
So right now we're seeing that months of inventory, we're trending towards a buyer's market. And so what that means is we take all the listings active on the market, we divide that by all the listings sold, and that's where we get the number of 5.1, which means it would take 5 months to sell the remaining listings on the market if nothing else was listed.
Okay, let's ask Cordell some questions about this. Cordell, what I really want to know is like 5.1, like what does it mean to you when we say like how is the market moving in a certain direction? Is it going more towards a buyer side or less?
So over the past 3 months, we have trended more and more into a buyer's market.
Okay. Is that normal?
For this time of the year, it is. Now, if we're going off last year's statistics, last year was pretty unnormal. We were heading into one of the hottest spring markets we've ever had. So this is a lot more normal for the winter months.
Okay, so normal for there to be a little bit fewer buyers per listing out there.
No, it's more buyers per listing.
I think it's the other way around. In a buyer's market, there's less buyers and more listings.
Oh,
so those
my
listings
apologies.
are kind of competing with each other. But I know once you say these words over and over again, they can kind of lose meaning a little bit. But what we're seeing out in the market, is that reflective with what your experiences are when you're representing buyers in the marketplace? There's more listings per buyer?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more choices. Listings are on the market a lot longer. So we're seeing a lot of listings that are priced from a few months ago, and they aren't at true market value for this current time.
Now, you were out showing luxury properties the other day. You were out showing some places that kind of ranged in price from kind of what price range?
Probably about 900,000 to like 1.2 million.
Okay, and as you were approaching those realtors, did those properties, like, did they feel hot, like they were going to leave the market any second?
No, not at all. Some of them were like 60 days on market, but we saw a few that were over 200 days on market.
Over 200 days on market. That's pretty wild. Well, what's normal there? Craig, what can you tell us about days on market?
Yeah, days on market for this time of year, it's definitely longer than spring and summer months. But for total residential in the month of November, 52 days on market was the average. Single family homes and duplexes actually took a little bit longer to leave the market than previous months. And condos are starting to sell a little bit quicker. And if we look historically, last year, we're very similar in terms of total residential sticking around on the market, but we are seeing those single family homes stick around a bit longer, which has not been the tale of this year.
Yeah, that's much different. Like, why are you giving us that contrast? What can you tell us about how this is different than before?
Well, when we were talking about multiple offers in April, May, June, a lot of them were single family homes and duplexes. That ideal client of the family who needed more bedrooms, they're looking to upgrade, they're out shopping in those months. Well, right now they're concentrating on Christmas. They're not necessarily looking to pack up and move in the coming weeks. So they kind of hunker down for the winter months. And right now we see much more investors, first-time home buyers, kind of hitting the market, looking to ask Santa for a new house for Christmas and squeeze in and celebrate in a new home.
Okay, now this is also a trend that I'm seeing right now is that we're talking to more people that are getting in as well. There was an interest rate change yesterday. How many people think that there's going to be another interest rate change? Can you raise your hand if you think that we're going to see another one in the next 90 days? I think we're going to see another one in the next 90 days. Bank of Canada meets every quarter, right? What was that, Amy?
I said no.
We want this to stop, right? The money is expensive enough.
If you're buying into the media, they kind of mentioned that we had this latest rate hike, and they're hoping that this is the last one in the foreseeable future. But if we always paid attention to the media, we would definitely be wrong. So I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, Taylor, come March, we see a little bit of an increase.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they wait until then as well, because traditionally what we've seen is the Bank of Canada meets and they make a change and then they wait about a month and then they bump again. So so I'm actually saying before they meet, we are going to see another change. So they did the change in December. I think that we're good until after Christmas, but traditionally they will make another nudge before they wait. If it seems to be either working enough or not working enough, I'm not sure how they do this. I really think that they might be like reading chicken bones or whatever you do there. It's tough to see from the outside. So when we take a look at like how that affects people, a lot of the time that actually drives people into a decision. Like there's a lot of people that we think they normally sit out this market, but they're worried that that house purchase in the spring is going to escape them. Because as that interest rate goes up, it also diminishes the amount that somebody can qualify for. And if the house price doesn't go down that amount, then they just don't get to buy that level of house. Is there anybody that is talking to people that are feeling the same way? Yeah, people coming over, people coming in, and also more shoppers in the market now. Amy, you were mentioning that your listing this week is getting some good attention.
Yeah, it went live yesterday, and before noon, we had 2 showing requests for this weekend, which is absolutely fabulous. We were really happy about that.
That's awesome. So, Craig, just to summarize before we move on, average days on market, how long does it take to sell the average house right now? How fast is that market moving?
Days on market, total residential, 52 days.
So about 2 months, start to finish. If you haven't solved the market by that time, you're probably going to make some changes, right? All right, well, let's move over to sales to new listing ratio. Tony, what can you tell us about the flow? How many listings are coming and how many of those listings are leaving the market as if we measure this on the month?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the sales to new listing ratio shows the relationship of the new listings arriving and at the same time, how many properties are leaving as successful sales. And so when we're looking at November of 2022, for total residential, we're at 62%. At this time last year, we were at 86%, and we were seeing it be pretty hot for single family and duplexes and row houses at that time last year. And honestly, they've been doing pretty good month over month. So when we're looking at, let's say there was 100 new listings coming on the market, for right now, single family, 63% of, or 63 of those 100 would be leaving the market. And we're up from October and up from September as well, but only just slightly. We're talking 50% in October and about the same in September. And right now we're at 62 for all residential. And last November was pretty hot. We were seeing, pretty much every duplex that came on the market, there was, another one leaving at the same time. And so what this means for buyers is, buyers that are looking at row houses or duplexes right now, you got to kind of be in the game. You got to be paying attention for the new listings that are coming on, because usually they're getting a lot of attention. So it looks like buyers are, maybe first-time buyers are deciding to get into the market at that lower price point versus maybe a single-family home. And we're seeing a trend with sellers as well, where you got to be really sharp on your price. You can't be using a playbook from 6 months ago. You've got to be priced accurately and looking at like the most recent sold properties around you.
Yeah, that's something that I was looking at as well, because I remember doing this calculation when we were talking to buyers that were nervous about going into multiple offers. And if you don't make an offer that wins, so if we can see market value, like we were talking about, doing those calculations, taking a look at those benchmark prices, filtering it against the statistics, like what we're talking about right now, if we can do that, well, then we can help you make a great offer that wins in multiple offers and takes this property off the market. But so many people were like, I'm afraid of paying too much. And we understood that. That was definitely the pressure there. However, there was a big cost to losing. If you lost and you were still shopping in that neighborhood, the next house that's listed was going to bench off of that house's price. And then you were going to have to compete with all the other people that lost and are probably going to try to do more to get the next house as well. And also the other new buyers coming into the marketplace. So we saw that it could actually cost you like 2 or 3% to miss and then take another shot at the next house. Now, the same thing, roles reversed, when we see us moving into a buyer's market and people are like, oh, I don't want to lower my price. I don't want to price at this price where which could be even less than some of the comparables that you've seen, because maybe they had sold when the market was stronger. Well, in that circumstance, if you miss and you overprice, like Craig and Cordell were just talking about taking like some pretty significant percentages off of listings that just didn't understand that they were that far away from the market. And there probably would have been more buyers than your buyers interested if they would have been a little bit closer.
True.
How are these conversations going for you as you meet with sellers? Are sellers really nervous right now?
Sellers are definitely nervous. They're feeling almost like they missed the mark. Like maybe they're thinking about selling last year and they just felt like it wasn't the right time for them. And now they're feeling like, seller's remorse. We should have listed sooner, just because, especially at this time of year, you just have to be, your expectations have to be a little bit lower overall. So yeah, the sellers are definitely nervous, and buyers, if they're ready, they're definitely getting a little bit more excited about the potential of a deal.
So buyers get more excited and sellers get more nervous depending on how much inventory we have, right? The amount of property on the market. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about what's for sale here in the greater Edmonton area?
Yeah, I definitely can. So right now for November of 2022, we had 6,404 total listings. That's up year over year, about 600, but it's down about 550 month over month, which means that some of those people that were afraid of the winter market probably let their listing expire and they're thinking about coming back to the market in the springtime. As we look at what's brand new on the market, there were 2,010 new residential listings and 98 new rural listings. So there's a total of 591 total rural listings. So all of these numbers are a little bit down year over year as well as month over month. This is the same 3-month trend that we saw last year. So what we also saw last year was that spring came early. February was a pinnacle. So if I was giving people some advice, what I would say is start talking to your realtor now, start getting everything ready so that they can call you to the market should we see the same trend that we saw last year, and you can come in February and capitalize.
I'd love that strategy. This is something I've been talking to families about for years. Now, we haven't really been in normal markets, so it's tough to see these trends unless you have a lot of experience. But the collective experience on the screen right now is that like hundreds and hundreds of houses, you know? And so taking a look at it through that scope, it's interesting to see what those strategies are. And I love the idea of coming before the rest of the competition arrives, because there are buyers earlier or active earlier in the market than sellers arrive to the market. In fact, buyers is what that's what calls supply to the marketplace. And so I like that idea, and I totally recommend that, especially for those families that are upgrading. Get your house on the market, find out how much you're going to get for it, get that longer possession date in order so that you can shop all the new inventory coming in. It's so good. So when it comes down to shopping for inventory, like the thing that most people are really concerned about when it comes to interest rates, especially on the seller side, is how does it affect price? And really, when we take a look at average price right now, what we see is in November, the average price is about $370,000, $368,500. And that's for all residential. The year to date average price is about $400,000. And what you'll notice is that in the spring and summer, that number is higher because most people are doing the upgrade. Those families with kids are selling something to buy something that on average for the average price around here is about $100,000 more. So if they're coming in at this average of 400,000 and then they're buying a 500,000, they're doing $900,000 worth of business as they come to the market. Now, with that business absent, we normally do see average price kind of move in a downward trend. But right now, what we're seeing is kind of a little bit of an up and down. We saw in September, the average price was $375. It went up to $381 in October and then down to $368 in November here. And when we take a look last year, it was $377 in September and October, and then $384 in November. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but average price is not the price of the average property. It is the price of the average purchase agreement, which can kind of show you where demand is from pricing in the market. So we were saying it was some less established buyers that were buying in the market, and that's such good news. It's such good news because this is where our market had the biggest challenges historically. Like when we take a look at prior to COVID, there was one buyer for like 5 sellers in the condo market. And to have some of those people that are moving here from other places, net migration has just been awesome. And to have them operating at the lower end of the market is going to do really big things for property here. Now, when we take a look at this scope of statistics, what do you think more sellers should know?
I think more sellers should know that they can talk to us at any point. It doesn't have to be when they're ready to list and get going. Right now, they should be talking to us all along and using our expertise to point them in the right direction and get them really ready.
Oh, come on, Amy. If I call you to my house, you're going to put the pins to me?
Oh, yeah. Push you right against the wall. No, I really like to take my client's strategy and just tweak it just that little bit to help them get to the next level. So there isn't ever any pressure. If you don't do this now, you're going to lose. You have to do this now. The constant phone calls, I want to be seen as help. So should your realtor. So reach out, get some advice. Right now, while things are a little bit slower and we've got the time to come and meet with you, take advantage of that.
Okay, so just to unpack that a bit, you would come over, take a look at our property, and help us with understanding what the value is, but also help us in preparing. What kind of things do you tell people?
Okay, so some of the things that we talk about is how to present your home. If you present your home in the right way, it's going to fetch you more dollars. So it'll be a matter of organization. I'll help you say, like, move this stuff into storage, move this into the basement, have this cleared off. And then I can even come back and check, okay, this is everything we talked about. You killed it. Or this is most of it, but we missed here, here, and here. And you're going to be ready in no time when you are ready to come to the market. So it just gets them in that place where they can really start to have things ready so that if there is an opportunity, they can jump right on it.
I totally agree. What kind of things do you recommend when you go for a walkthrough, Anthony? Is there any specific thing that you think sellers do to get the most bang for their buck as they prepare for the market?
Honestly, I always talk about our blind spots. Like, having worked with a lot of buyers and sellers, I want to give them the approach that their buyers are going to see when they walk through their home. You might be okay with the baseboards like this, but buyers are going to have concerns. And if they see that, like, little things that might make them feel like, what else is going on here, or how well is this place maintained, I would always suggest getting those taken care of. And it doesn't cost a whole lot, but just making the place really presentable and declutter as much as possible. Those are usually the best things that sellers can do.
I love what you said about looking at this through a buyer's eyes. So everybody here helps buyers and sellers, and that's so important because you become a better listing agent working with buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And you become a better buyer agent working with sellers, because a lot of people can't, if they don't work with sellers as well, they can't see how the sellers are feeling on the other side. Like at 200 days on market, you better believe they're nervous and they're defensive. And there's probably some other factors here of why they haven't come to the market or why they haven't got to the market. And that can actually translate into getting people ready for sale. So one of the things that I recommend is if you do have pets, all I'm asking is that they don't see that in the first 3 minutes. They can find the dog bowl or the dog bed downstairs later, but that first 3 minutes, if they see dog bowls, they're going to be looking for pet damage for the rest of the showing. So just control those openings, and that's something that a lot of people don't get. They're like, yeah, if they want to buy my house, they can just buy my house. It's like they totally approach that where they try to make money with sales. When you go to a mall, they just open up the boxes of clothes and you just pick your size, man. No, they put them on displays, right? They put a ton of work into that because it works. Like footfalls and eyeballs are how things sell. What about on the buying side? Craig, when buyers are approaching the market right now, what do you think that you should be looking for in order to get a deal?
Again, first and foremost, make sure we're narrowing in on the type of property you're looking for in the right neighborhood. Walk through all the properties that are available, compare them, and then have your realtor show you some sold comparables. The amount of people that I've spoken to that have transacted in the past where their realtor did not provide them with sold information, it's key because, again, list price is essentially just a number that a seller wants. There's no proof behind it. There's no stats. So look at those sold comparables and then listen to your realtor for advice.
Wow, that's something that I don't think hits with a lot of people. That sometimes list price is set with details, and sometimes it is set with a dartboard, right? Like we've all talked to sellers that we asked them, like, what type of price are you looking for on this house? And the reason we ask them is they, for some reason, think that the number that they would like and the number that their house is worth matches. It never matches. Everybody would always want more money for their property. And if they are making mistakes, sellers don't normally make mistakes by pricing too low. They make mistakes by pricing too high. Just like an uninformed buyer that doesn't get that sold information, they're actually way more likely to make a low offer that everybody would buy that house at. And that's because without mitigating information, like, who doesn't like money? Okay, before we wrap, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about volume of sales. So when this is something that is really struggling in many other markets. When you take a look at Toronto and Vancouver, I think the wide stats were staggering as to how many markets they're seeing a massive change in the amount of properties that are leaving the market. So when we take a look at November this year, we see a significant difference from November of last year. About 1,250 properties have left the market when we talk about total residential. That's moving on a downward trend. Almost 1,600 in September, almost 1,500 in October, and here we are at almost 1,300 in November. When we take a look at last year it wasn't moving down sharply. It was kind of like it was almost 1,900, then it was about 1,850, and then it was 1,800. And that's a really big difference from the 1,300 that sold this last month. So like what Cordell had said, last year was not a normal year. Last year, things were rising up into that spot, rising up to like almost like the crescendo of the end of the pandemic market as we approach this spring of 2022. Now, when you see these types of numbers, what does it make you think? Like, Amy, when you see this this trending downward, what does it make you conclude based on the rest of the information you have?
Okay, so this is a bit of a guess, but I believe that there are people that are waiting things out, thinking that interest rates are going to fall and that prices are going to fall and that all of this is going to come together. And if they hold on, they're going to get it way cheaper later. And I don't think that that's the case.
Okay, so you think that there's a whole bunch of people that maybe would have taken action that are kind of holding off, and it's mainly because they're thinking the bottom is yet to come.
Yeah.
All right. Now, anybody else, do they agree that that would be a good strategy?
So
I wouldn't say
agree
it's a
that
good
would be-
strategy, but I would say that's probably, exactly what buyers are thinking. I might hold off because this might improve, but we all know that most people right now are just paying more for the house that they like, right? Or they're getting less house than they could have gotten, this time last year.
So they're paying more. It's not in list price though, right?
No, not necessarily, but they might still be paying more on their mortgage and interest than for that same house than they would have last year.
Yeah, like half a point. I was talking to a mortgage broker the other day, and they were saying half a point drives up the cost of $100,000 by like $50 a month at the average price around here.
Mhm.
So that's a pretty significant move. If you're thinking that change has happened now, what is it 8 times since the beginning of this year?
Yeah.
Because like if it just moved once, $50, okay, like you might have to cancel the Netflix or whatever you're spending money on, maybe less coffees. But if it moved the same amount all those 8 times, what we're talking about is a $400 difference. Like now it's time not to get that car. But the concern is that I'm going to buy housing and then I'm going to pay more for my mortgage and my house is going to be worth less. But even in the markets where they're seeing way less activity than what we're seeing, by proportionately, they're not seeing houses being sold by the dozen at half price. That's not what's happening there. And what I think is happening here is fear. People are afraid because the news says the market is bad. But as they realize that, like, you have to compare it to something. You can compare like, hey, I don't own real estate right now. So if real estate's going up, then I don't want to buy it when it's high. But then you have to look around, like, where do you live right now? Interest rates went up by 0.5%, but your rent is 100% interest. Or if you're looking to buy a property, right now you're going to get some options. We're not sure what it's going to look like in the spring because I have a feeling that as interest rates rise, so will net migration. More people will be moving here. You'll have more competition among buyers, and they're cashing out of markets where they could buy 2 houses here. Yeah. So any thoughts as we go into the holidays? What do you guys see in the next 30 days based on how things are trending?
I know that my schedule is going to start picking up. I've got some buyers that are excited to get started. There are fresh pre-approvals and all that. And some sellers that are excited about listing like, early January, getting ready for this early spring market. And it's exciting to see that there's still some interest. It's not all doom and gloom. I'm optimistic about the direction the market's going.
I'm meeting with lots of sellers to help them get everything ready to go. And a lot of them are waiting for me to call them to the market.
Yeah, like just kind of watching to see when when there's less competition or when there's like an uptick in activity.
Correct.
Absolutely. Craig, what do you think as we close the year? Any expectations?
Yeah, we're having a lot of great conversations right now. I think once the holidays are behind us, we're going to see a lot of people start to take action. New year, they will start focusing on their new goals.
Awesome. And how about yourself, Cordell?
Same as Craig, having great conversations. I've been primarily talking with people who are moving to Edmonton. So just going off that net migration, a lot of Saskatchewan people, Ontario people. So overall, just like planning their moves. most likely after the holidays, but nonetheless, they're coming here regardless.
I think the trend's going to continue here where more people are going to take action earlier next year. And a lot of people are just like what you were mentioning with this New Year's being like a benchmark. Their new year might be in Alberta. This might be the last time they're going to have Christmas in Ontario or Christmas in BC with their family. And then they're going to make that migration because the jobs are here. Everybody I know is working. And I'm not sure that that's the same everywhere. So move to Alberta. You can save yourself apparently almost all of your household income based on what we saw statistically. And then if you find that it's a little cool here this time of year, you can get on airplanes and go find great places and then come on back to a place where you can pay for it all. I hope that everybody has an awesome holiday, and we will be back talking a little bit about what goes on in December, early next year, making some forecasts and giving you an update on the real estate market. Thank you, HACK&CO team, for coming in and giving us your thoughts this morning. We appreciate you. And congratulations on 50 million.